One of the greatest scientific missions of modern times has taken a giant leap forward today with the launch at lunchtime of the James Webb Space Telescope.
There's a moment when wonder turns into fear, when the vast, star-filled sky, once a source of beauty and inspiration, suddenly begins to feel unfamiliar, watching you instead of being watched. That moment came quietly, wrapped not in drama, but in silence, in the soft hum of data flowing back to Earth from a machine that had been sent to uncover the universe's oldest secrets. The James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most ambitious eye in the sky, was never supposed to frighten us. It was born of hope, of curiosity, of the eternal desire to know where we came from. And yet, what it found has left even the most brilliant minds stunned and afraid. It started with an image, just one, simple image, captured in a place so far away and so far back in time that human language struggles to describe it. A patch of sky no bigger than a grain of sand held at arm's length, yet within it, a window to the beginnings of everything. The early universe, less than 300 million years old, barely past the moment of birth. Scientists expected chaos, small, clumpy stars, and misshapen galaxies struggling to find order in the aftermath of the Big Bang. What they didn't expect was maturity. One of Webb's first deep-field snapshots revealed a cluster of galaxies, massive, organized, beautiful in a way that should have been impossible. These weren't just baby galaxies finding their feet. They were giants, titans with spirals and arms and black hole hearts that spoke of 1 billion years of evolution. And yet, there they were, standing silently in the infant darkness of time, like ancient ruins in a newborn world. It made no sense. None of it did. Then came another, and another. These weren't isolated anomalies. They were everywhere, massive galaxies fully formed long before they should have been. Every image Webb sent back was like a slap to the face of physics. It was as if the rules had changed or had never been understood to begin with. Scientists scrambled to explain. Some said perhaps we had misunderstood the timeline. Others whispered things they didn't want to say aloud. Things about time not being linear, about universes before our own, about messages written into the structure of space itself. But then, the pulse began. Buried within the heart of one of these ancient clusters, Webb detected something strange, a soft, rhythmic beat, infrared light flashing in patterns too perfect to be coincidence. It wasn't like the flicker of a dying star. It wasn't the chaos of a black hole. It was precise, as if something deep within the void was trying to speak. At first, scientists dismissed it, a glitch perhaps, but it continued, regular, consistent, refusing to fade. More data poured in. A second observation revealed something even stranger. The pulsing light came not from within the galaxy itself, but from the center of a vast, symmetrical emptiness. A void so clean, so geometrically perfect, that it defied nature itself. Space is messy, chaotic. It doesn't make straight lines or perfect circles. But this void looked carved, cleared with intention, hundreds of light years wide and yet silent as the grave, with that single pulsing light at its center like a heartbeat in the dark. What could do that? What would do that? No one had answers, only questions. And with every new revelation, the questions grew darker. Scientists began whispering about patterns in the light, shapes hidden in the wavelengths, repetitions that resembled mathematical constants, the golden ratio, pi, sacred geometry etched into radiation from billions of years ago. Were these just coincidences? Or was something trying to leave a message? Webb was supposed to be a telescope, a machine to help us see the past. But what if it was more than that now? What if it had become a mirror? A way for the universe, not just to show us what came before, but to show us what we were never meant to see. The moment the signal changed, everything did. For days, the rhythmic pulse remained steady, gentle, predictable, like a cosmic metronome echoing across time. But then came the modulation. Subtle at first, a shift in frequency, a ripple, like the signal was adjusting, reacting, or worse, learning. The change didn't follow any natural curve. It wasn't a burst or decay. It was a climb, a pattern, a deliberate evolution. The sort of progression that doesn't come from stars or dust or collisions, but from something that understands what it's doing. Scientists across the globe watched in silence. Rooms filled with people stared at cold monitors as numbers shifted and graphs twisted into shapes that made no sense, or too much sense. The signal began to spread across the electromagnetic spectrum, bleeding out of the infrared and into other wavelengths, like it was reaching for something, like it was calling. And suddenly, the theories that had once lived in the corners of fringe science started creeping into the mainstream. What if this wasn't a natural occurrence? What if somewhere out there in the oldest corners of the universe, something had been waiting, patient, ancient, buried behind a veil of time and distance so immense it had only just now been touched by the light of our gaze? That possibility alone was terrifying enough. But what made it worse was the silence. No answers, no conclusions, only growing unease. Because the closer scientists looked, the less natural everything became. The void wasn't just empty, it was impossible. A perfect nothing, carved with clean edges and unfathomable precision, like a hole punched through reality. And centered inside that absence, the source of the pulsing light didn't seem to belong at all. It didn't emit light. It echoed it, twisted it, as if it were bending the rules that define how light even works. And surrounding this echo were distortions, subtle, elegant, horrifying. The kind of patterns you might find in a computer code or a language. Some researchers began to murmur of symbolic logic, of syntax, of intention, but still the official channels dismissed the more terrifying possibilities. Unexplained, they said, still under review. Yet behind closed doors, whispers grew louder. Some scientists spoke of relics from a previous universe, of ancient cosmic scaffolds left behind when the last reality collapsed into this one. Others suggested the unthinkable, that we might be witnessing not a remnant, but a prison, that whatever lies at the heart of that carved-out emptiness had been contained. That idea hit like a chill wind through the corridors of theoretical physics, because a prison implies two things. First, that something dangerous is inside, and second, that someone or something had the power to put it there. Was this some kind of cosmic failsafe? A warning system left by a civilization too ancient to imagine? Had we accidentally unlocked a door that was never meant to be opened? Or were we simply the latest in a long line of life forms stumbling across artifacts left behind by beings who no longer walk the stars? The signal grew more complex. It began to cycle through frequencies with alarming precision. And within those changes, some claimed, there were sequences that mirrored biological rhythms. Heartbeats, neural spikes, electrical pulses that, when translated through models, resembled patterns of thought, not chaotic or random, but deliberate, structured, aware. It was at that moment, many said, that the fear truly began, because it no longer felt like discovery. It felt like contact. But contact with what? The void itself offered no clues. Its silence became more oppressive than any sound. The deeper the telescope looked, the less it understood. Every new image brought more questions, more impossibilities, more signs that the universe wasn't just alive with galaxies and stars, but filled with ghosts. Shadows of a purpose we couldn't comprehend. A blueprint written in radiation, in geometry, in void. And the James Webb Space Telescope, so elegant, so advanced, so fragile, had become the unwitting messenger, delivering a revelation that shook the very foundation of human certainty, that the cosmos in all its brilliance might not be ours to understand. That behind the beauty of starlight and nebulae might lie something else, something watching, waiting, or worse, remembering. As the signal pulsed on, ever evolving, it became harder to separate science from silence. The language of logic, of data, of analysis, once the stronghold of clarity, began to crack under the weight of what James Webb had revealed. For every discovery that could be explained, 10 more rose from the shadows, daring anyone to understand. The deeper we looked, the more the universe seemed to unravel, not like a broken machine, but like something alive, something peeling back its skin to show us a truth we were never meant to see. And yet, we kept looking. It was as if the telescope itself had become a lighthouse, not just casting light into the darkness, but drawing something toward us, not in motion, not in form, but in meaning. Every shift in the signal brought with it a disturbing intimacy, not a scream from across the cosmos, but a whisper that seemed to know us. Some began to ask the questions others were too afraid to voice. Was this discovery really about deep space, or was it about us? About our need to see patterns in the chaos? About our desperate desire to believe we're not alone? Had we created the illusion of meaning in this ancient signal? Or had we merely decoded the edge of something too big for our minds to hold? And what if it wasn't an illusion at all? A team of researchers proposed a controversial idea that the void wasn't just a physical anomaly, but a psychological one, that whatever lay at its center wasn't just influencing space, it was influencing perception, as if the structure itself across billions of light years could feel us observing it. And in response, it adapted. That idea chilled everyone, because if true, it would mean that looking into the void wasn't passive. It was a conversation. It was a key turning in a lock we didn't know existed. And something was listening. Across universities and observatories, across disciplines and belief systems, a rare silence settled in. Not the silence of ignorance, but the silence of knowing, of standing at the edge of a cliff so vast that even the bravest minds hesitate to leap. The signals continued, the patterns deepened, but no message arrived. No voice declared its presence, only the pulse, only the impossible shape of a perfect void, centered in a place where nothing should be. The horror of it wasn't in what we knew, but in the space between what we didn't. Because maybe this wasn't a message for us. Maybe it never was. Maybe we were never supposed to find it, just as the ancients who carved it, if they existed, were never meant to be remembered. Maybe the universe is full of these old marks, like fossils in the bedrock of time, silent testimonies to an intelligence not bound by flesh or planet or need. Something timeless, something old enough to forget what it left behind. And here we are, rediscovering it. The questions grew darker. If it was a prison, what was imprisoned? If it was a signal, who sent it? And why had they stopped? And if it was all a warning, were we too late to understand what it warned us about? In the end, the James Webb Telescope didn't just look back in time. It tore a hole in the comfortable illusion that we were the first, or the most, or the only. It reminded us that we live in a universe with deep memory. That space is not silent. It's just speaking in a voice too vast for ears to hear. And maybe, just maybe, we were never alone. Not in the past, not now, and certainly not in the dark. As the telescope continues to gaze outward, we brace for what it might find next. For the pulse that shifts again, for the void that breathes, for the moment when science can no longer separate itself from myth, when data becomes story, when the universe finally answers back. And when it does, will we understand? Or will we realize that we were part of its story all along?